Welcome to Beyond Business Barriers, powered by insights, driven by strategy, and yes, assisted by AI. I'm your host, Roy MacEwen, and today's episode is part of a special series where we sit down with industry leaders to dig into what's working, what's not, and what the future holds. I'm excited to have Tony with me today. Tony, glad to have you here today. Now let's kick things off here with a quick intro. Can you tell us a little about who you are and where our listeners can find you online?
Yeah, I'm Tony Lael. I am the chief strategist at Aponus. And they can find me online at consultingaponus.com, and that's aponus.com. And we primarily focus on working with digital marketing agencies and helping them grow, scale, automate, generate more profit, and even exit their business when they're ready to. So that's part of our program.
Okay, we'll go along through here. We'll start with your background, some shifts you're seeing in the industry right now. We'll dig into your current priorities and challenges, and then we'll look ahead and where things are going and how you're preparing for what's coming next. So let's start at the top. Give me your whole primary role, Tony, with your company and how it connects with the bigger vision of the team, what the team is actually working towards.
That's such an interesting question. So my background a little bit is in software development. Back in 2004, I co-founded a company that built a couple of products, one a financial dashboard and two a professional service automation system. Now, these were both built for IT service companies. Fast forward, I got into the digital marketing agency world in 2014. But along the way, I've done various aspects of sales and marketing, CRM implementations. The list goes on. And so what I've seen really is the evolution of people, process, and technology in businesses of all kind, but mostly agencies, digital marketing agencies. And when you think about the technology that's coming down the pipe, which is actually, it's not coming, it's already here, AI, it's a big part of the initiative that I'm helping lead with some of my agencies. So, AI, everybody's saying, oh, it's a game changer. These things are, it's going to change the world. We're all going to be out of a job. And, they said the same thing about the cloud. They said the same thing about a few other things. And there's always been people involved. It's just in a different way. So it's a new set of technology. I think it's revolutionary. I think it's going to do a lot of great things and people are going to have to figure it out. But that is the big gold rush that's happening right now. And so the way I look at it is if you're an agency owner or a small business owner of any kind, you usually had a dream or a vision to start your business, run a business, and you had these, dreams of and visions of freedom in your mind. Like, oh, I could be my own boss. Well, the statistics show that most business owners they become the boss, but really what they've done is given themselves a job, which on some level that's great. But what I'm about is helping business owners and specifically digital marketing agencies really look at their business a different way. It should be a wealth generating machine for you ultimately and a way to exit and retire. And there's a bunch of different creative ways to do that. So that's what I'm really about. And part of that means helping implement AI solutions. Um, part of it means helping define cultures for businesses. Part of it means helping streamline processes and make businesses more financially viable, profitable, basically.
And I noticed something that you mentioned there about, I know with our age demographic, speaking of us, you said inevitably you want to look at selling and retiring. And I don't think that that's focused on enough out there. It's initially getting everybody in there, getting started. I'm going to be having my own business. It's going to be easier. This is better than having a job. You see all the ads out there, and you get out of it what you put into it. So if you can't go in putting a little bit of effort into this, you have to put a lot of effort into this. And can you elaborate on that? Like when people have that misconception of, I'm going to be my own boss and I'm going to work my own hours. I only work 4 hours a day, you know?
Yeah, it's interesting you bring it up that way because life is about perspective and what lens are you looking at life through? Um, and so most people start their own business because they can do something really well, and someone says, "Oh, you should start your own business," and they say, "Okay." And then they go into it, they do it themselves, they get referrals, they grow it. Now that's really they're by themselves and maybe with an assistant, depending on the type of business it is. But it gets to the point where you're at a crossroads where you say, I need to become a business owner, which means my job goes from doing the thing to managing and overseeing the people that do the thing. Or in this case, maybe it's the AI that does the thing. But that shift is a big point in entrepreneurs' lives where they have to consciously make the choice because you go from doing the work to managing the people, and that becomes a different job. Now, once you once you get through that little stage and you're to a place where you have retirement in mind, one of the best pieces of advice I've ever received from a guy named Jim Allen. He's one of my coaches at Seven Figure Agency. Um, not a plug for those guys, but he he sold his marketing company for multi-million-dollar kind of exit. And one of the things he said was, um, just like maybe in, American football, I don't know who's watching this, but in football, you have an end zone. You always need to define what your end zone is. Is it an age like 60? Okay, I've got 8 years I've got to do this for, or I've got 40 years I've got to do this for, depending on where you are in your business, in your, life. But what's your end zone and why? And he said, don't focus on the number, focus on what it's going to take to get to that end zone and who's going to be the team to get you across the goal line. Because that's really what it's about, is getting across that goal line. And so with that in mind, it really helps shape, you know, what you do from where you are. By the way, when you're young, I'll just use some really uh, broad examples. When you're young and let's say in high school, 4 years seems like a ton of time. Why? Because 4 years is a larger percentage of your life. When you're our age, 4 years goes by like that.
It was yesterday.
That was yesterday. A little bit of it is it's a smaller percentage of your life. When you're a day old, a day is 100% of your life. So there's a little bit of perspective when you get to be a little bit older, not just in experience wise, but time does this, speeds up, I think, or at least that's the perception. And so having goals becomes even more important. Um, and, and so what I focus on with my partners and clients is you have a 10-year, a 5-year, a 3-year, and a 1-year uh, vision and plan. And now that adjusts every year, but you can bring that 1 year back to every quarter. Because a year, I mean, let's face it, a year goes by, and it's about making progress on that larger goal set. Um, you know, good business is like good golf. I'm a big golfer. Good golf is boring. Good business is boring. It's showing up every day. It's doing a good job. It's making progress on plans. Everybody's got a plan. Well, why do you have a plan? Well, we're going to grow sales, or we're going to hire a new person, or we're going to improve what technology we bring on. Whatever those plans are, you got to make progress on it every day. And that can be boring. And back to the 4-hour work week. My brother, who owns a landscape supply business, he said, "You better love what you do, or it's going to be real work."
Mhm.
Well, the fact of the matter is, it's all real work. You can't escape it. You're going to work your arse off. But if you truly love what you're doing, and this is the part that I think the book's got it right, it won't seem like work. It'll just seem like you being you. It's where you get to this place in your life, and some people, it took me a while to get there. It took me like 40 years to get there. Some people figure it out when they're 12. It just depends. But where you stop thinking about the you want to be, and you just start being the you are. And when you're the you are, and it's aligned with the business that you chose, or that you're in, that you love, that you have plans for, that's when real stuff starts to happen. That's when the real, you know, in my opinion, it stops becoming work. Um, and it just becomes what you do every day.
Exactly. Well, speaking of every day, let's try this. If we could shadow you for a day, or I could shadow you for a day, what would we see, or is every day a completely different day? I know you're an early riser and you like to get things going, but there's also a reason that you're an early riser.
Yeah. Yeah. So, um, if the typical day, so everything's run off of my calendar. If it's not on my calendar, and my wife will laugh at me, it's my personal stuff is on my, if it's not on my calendar, it does not happen. So there'll be times when someone, there's a technical snafu and it didn't get on the calendar, or it got on the calendar in the wrong spot. So my calendar is kind of like my brain. And typically what I'm doing is on Mondays, I have all my 90-minute, um, what I call, I use EOS, Entrepreneurial Operating System, to manage all my businesses. So on Mondays, I'll have most of my EOS. Um, I don't start until 10 o'clock, 10 a.m. My son is at a point where I'll usually take him to school, but that's going to be gone for a little bit. So Monday mornings are kind of my get ready for the onslaught time. And so I usually get up most days at 6. And on the days I need to get a lot done, or I want to leave early, I'll get up at 5. And so, like this morning, I got up at 5. I had a call with my AI consultant that I'm working with to build out some systems. He's in Germany, so I got up at 5, had a conversation with him at 5:30. Um, so one of the things I do is usually spend 15 or 20 minutes stretching in the morning, just decompressing, getting ready to go. And then so Tuesdays at Wednesdays, Thursdays are my work days. I have a few meetings scheduled in there, but those are my open times for new meetings, and getting work done. Fridays, I usually have one of my EOS weekly meetings, 90-minute weekly meetings on Friday morning. And then the rest of my day is blocked out for whatever I want to do. I used to reward myself with money, but now I reward myself with time, because I know that time is the freedom that I wanted when I first started all this stuff. So I could, on Fridays, I could go golfing. I could, maybe I need to pick up my son so I could have family obligations. Or, you know, my wife and I might have a project we work on together. And so maybe I cut off early and we start something like that. Um, so, Monday mornings, I give myself space and time, and Friday, I give myself space and time because I can pack a lot in 3 days. And if I need to, I stretch time. Sometimes I've gotten up at 3 in the morning because I don't know if you've experienced this where you wake up and your brain is just ready to go. And so I just go with the flow. And sometimes I'll just get up.
Why fight it? If your
Why
brain's
fight it?
telling you,
Because
let's do it.
otherwise you're laying in bed, just grinding away in your head and not getting any sleep anyway. So I just get up and get to work. Now I have the ability to work on my computer. I've been working remotely since 2001, in various capacities for a long time. I've also gone into offices and do that, so it's not been complete remote. But um, you know, I try to pack everything in 3 days if I can get it.
That's pretty good. And that allows you the freedom to stretch the time, as you so put it, or
Yeah,
and yet you have the ability to do that too as you get older and more experienced. Some people today call them shortcuts, but it's just proper planning, right? If you plan
it,
it right.
it is. It is proper planning. Now, it wasn't always like that.
Oh,
It's not, it
no,
wasn't always like that. So,
that's a learned
um,
skill.
yeah, it is. And it starts with, can you manage your calendar?
And now the calendar's right there. Before you had to look for the calendar and then bring the calendar up, fill the calendar, know where you put the calendar to fill that calendar out. But now it's right there.
Yeah. Yeah, it's a consistent, constant thing. Um, there was a time, the software company I was talking about earlier, we won this contest that Intuit put on, and now they have it every year. And it's the first year they launched their marketplace, they had this showcase, and our financial dashboard won this contest, and we took the prize money and we built out we call it small business tour, a road show, and then 5 cities. And I was the guy responsible for getting sponsorship, booking all the hotels and venues, um, just organizing everything. And these shows were 2 weeks apart, uh, over 7 weeks. So, well, yeah, 2 weeks apart. So 10 weeks. Uh, and I remember I had a timer on my screen for each of the countdown timer on my screen. So every day when I woke up, every night before I went to bed, those timers were running and were constant in my head. And because I knew I had to do, and I'd never done that before, that job before, but I knew. So the first one was like, catching cats falling from the sky. And the second one was a little better. By the third one, I'd kind of perfected it and had an entire SOP, standard operating procedure, for what I knew I had to do. And I think one of the things that happens, and I don't know if you've experienced this, where uh, when something comes up that's new that you've never done before, but it has to get done, and you're like, well, I don't know how to, you could say, well, I don't know how to do that. Or you could just dive in and get it done and stumble through it.
Fly
And
by the
once you
seat of your
stumble through
pants.
it,
Yeah.
so it's the courage to stumble through the things you don't know how to do, is my point. And some people, it's like, no one would have climbed Mount Everest if they've never climbed Mount Everest. There was one guy that had to, I can't remember his name. He's one guy with a team. He's like, yeah, why are we climbing this? Well, because I
'Cause it's
want to
there.
learn how to climb it. I want to do it. It's there.
Yeah,
And I don't know if you call those leaders or, whatever, but now there's
definitely
so much
innovators.
information out there.
Definitely innovators.
I'm sorry, go ahead.
Yeah, innovators. That's what it is. You're innovating, right? No one else has done it before. You got to do it.
Is it really innovating though? Is it because it's there? I guess if no one's ever done anything, like it, it's like my wife and I were having our son, and before he was born, I remember being really calm because I'm like, I think billions of people have done this before. Billions.
Yeah,
So I'm not, there's nothing about me that's special. Let's just ride the wave.
that's true. That's true. My father's advice to me was have a plan and be prepared to change that plan. I was like, oh, thanks so much. When you want to write that down for me,
Yeah.
so
Okay,
I want an
genius.
SOP. Let's go.
Yeah. It's like nothing changes until it changes.
Mm.
You
And it
know,
does. It does every day.
yeah.
You know,
My was it my dad or my mom? I wanna say it's my dad. It's my dad said, my mom has good advice too. My dad said, know when people are giving you good advice. And I remember thinking when he said this, and I was probably in my teens, I remember thinking, how how am I gonna know that? I don't know good versus well, the point is, if you know who you are and what you want, you'll know what good advice is for that. And then what you learn is to train yourself to give yourself good advice.
and that's
That's the trick.
self-programming. That's self-programming. I
Yeah,
mean,
completely,
you can't pass
completely.
that on, and no two people are the same. You can't pass on, oh, this works for me, so it's going to work for you. How many times have you heard that?
Yeah. Right, right. Yeah. Boy, if you ever want to learn how to run a business, have children.
Fair enough.
Not that people that work for you are children, but we all are children at some point.
Yes,
We all
everybody's
were
at
taught
different
by somebody.
stages.
We all learned from somewhere and cobbled together our own little world and, you know, tried to make it work. But
Well, it's the efficiency factor, right? It's how efficient something is. You could do something the same time 10 times and it works okay. And then someone says, "Well, have you tried doing this?" Well, no. That's kind of a neat idea. Let's try. Lo and behold, your efficiency is now more efficient.
yeah, it
We're never
changes
too
your
old.
world and you go, why didn't I do that 10 years ago?
Yeah, and why didn't I talk to this person 10 years ago? And that's
Yeah.
kind of something I'm hoping that people get out of these podcasts is that, oh, I never thought of that. And it might be something that's so simplistic to yourself and saying, well, yeah, of course that's what you do. It's all about learning and advancing and learning all the time. You never stop learning.
It's interesting. I don't know where I remember learning it, but I remember hearing it was like a business coach or consultant or somebody. Um, I think it was not Jules Verne. No, not Jules Verne. Verne Harnish. Jules Verne is an author. Verne Harnish. Uh, uh, look him up, Verne Harnish. But I remember hearing him speak, and he talks about gazelles as businesses that they called gazelles. Him and his team, and gazelles were companies that were growing 25% a year or more for 3 years running. So, gazelles fast and nimble. So that's kind of why they call them gazelles. And he was talking about what one of the things gazelles would do is always be hiring, even if you didn't have an open position. And I remember thinking, why would you do that if you didn't have an open position and you couldn't promise somebody a job? Well, the foundation of that is you're always talking to new people. When you're taking interviews, you're learning because here are these people that have some level of expertise in what you're doing or trying to do with your business. And you're having conversations with them and you're asking them questions
Mhm.
and they're coming up with ideas, answers, if they're good interviewers. They're talking about their experience. You're actually learning from them, which is, I guess you would call that a hack or a cheat these days, but it's genius. And so, uh, at one of my businesses, a marketing agency, Fanit, um, we started interviewing for the strategist role and just let's interview. So part of our interview process is we use Indeed and we set out, we're looking for this person. It's starting out part-time, moving into full-time. The strategist is basically in that business. It's the person who runs the client relationship, who gets the work done, manages the work for the clients. And um, so you have to have experience, at least 5 years experience there. And one of the first things you have to do is send us a video answering these 5 questions. So, because we want to see, are you a culture fit? Do you have experience doing the job? Do you understand the people we do work for? There's a few other things. We also make them take a test if they're interested. Now, it just happens to be that that business is hiring for that role. But one of the things that we'll do is every now and again, we'll just put up a new post and interview people. And we we actually find people and discover people that are interviewing for that role that aren't fit for that role, but they're fit for another role that we have.
Yeah.
And you have to go to them and say, hey, look, I know you came in looking for this kind of work, but you're really suited for this other kind of work, and here's why. Are you open to that?
The fit factor. Yeah, yeah, you got to fit in. If you fit better in the left glove than a right glove, I'm not gonna, try to stick you in the right glove. You can
Right.
conform to this.
Yeah. Yeah. And it really takes some, I don't know if it's years of experience or just dealing with so many people over time. You get a sense for people, even on a video call like this, how they answer questions. Um, we always put live scenarios. I always have notes. Like, here's actually what happened. And I know what we did. What would you do?
What'd you do?
And I'm not going
Yeah.
to share what we did, but what would you do? And
My best interview question I ever got was, well, if someone came to you with a problem, how would you react to it? And I'd be like going, well, are they coming to me with the problem and the solution? I said, because that's what I offer. I don't even mention the problem. You know, here's the problem and here's the solution. That's the route to go.
yeah,
And that stuck with me for many, many years.
yeah.
Don't
The rule of
complain.
thumb is if you identify a problem, you probably need to have 3 ideas of how to solve it. Because then we can discuss. That's what the EOS is really good at. They have a um, process, a weekly process. They call it a L10 or level 10 meeting. It's 90 minutes long, and 60 minutes of it is, they call it IDS: identify, discuss, and solve. So it's a place where leadership team, can come in. And the best thing about having a business with a leadership team, once you get to that point where it's not just you in a room being the hero of your business, it's you have a team of at least 3 people that are spotting issues early, discussing them and solving those problems. and then having people to go do things or lead the next steps who are responsible for that. It's one of the things I love about EOS. Again, a system I didn't create, I didn't build, I just adopted and adapted it to what I do.
Well, that's the thing about tools. There's lots of tools out there. You have to find the tool that works best for you and continue to grow and get more tools. And I think that's the big thing now with the systems that are advancing out there now, and people are reaching and saying, this is going to solve my problem. That's just it. There's no easy solution. There's no instant solution, you know?
Yeah.
And I think that's what I got a lot out of your last 5 minutes of discussing there. Like there's nothing's easy, but there's always a way to do it. And I think that's very important.
Yeah. Yeah. You always have to remember to, um, I adopted this maybe like 5 years ago, and it just helped tremendously manage, um, because the journey of a person who owns a business, an entrepreneur, is a long one. It's a tough one. It tests your psychological strength, your intellect, your patience, your all these things, which is why I love working with other small business owners. These are companies in my mind, small as under 10 million a year in annual revenue. Pick your, denomination. Um, by the way, if you think about it, only a million, or excuse me, only 4 to 5% of the companies ever make it past $1 million in annual revenue. Less than 1% make it past 10 million. The good news is that's not a very, if you were to say, what's your success factor? Well, 4 to 5%. That doesn't seem like a lot. The good news is the world is a massive place
Numbers, yes.
and the numbers are huge. So there's a lot of people out there that are doing this. And there's no reason why anybody listening can't do it, you
That's
know,
true.
if they want to.
And if they want to, that's exactly it. You got to decide if you want to do it, and then you got to start somewhere.
Yeah.
Now, speaking of starting, I want you to not just start. I know you've already started and you're doing a continuance, but I want you to look forward in the next 6 months. So, what would success look like to you, and what are you hoping to celebrate by then?
That is such a killer question. I love that question.
I was waiting to fit it in. I was just waiting.
Roy's just crawling along like a cat. Um, 6 months, we will have finalized our AI solution for lead gen, sales automation, and client onboarding. So I'll be celebrating that. Uh, I will be celebrating taking on two more businesses as a consulting for cash plus equity. That's what I do. I help businesses by coming in and running their or partnering with their owner. And as part of that, I take some consulting fees, but I also take earn out in equity in that business. So I'll be celebrating two more of those because I'm right in the middle of a couple of good conversations there. And my wife will be retired. She's working part time now. And then my son will be uh, driving on his own and going to his first part time job.
It's pretty incredible.
If all those things are happening in 6 months, I'll be a happy man.
So, you won't be retiring, no.
No,
No, you
no.
never truly retire because then you stop learning.
I'm a builder.
That's
It's like
right.
I tell people, and there's different kinds. Like What do you do? I build stuff. Well, what does that mean? Well, it wasn't there before, and then after I'm involved, it's there. I don't know. That's the simplest way to put it.
Hey, I'll be more than happy to call you a master builder. How's that? Well, this has been a great conversation, Tony. Now we were talking. You talked briefly about your book. Let's elaborate on the book for a few minutes here.
Oh, so one of my friends, I'm a avid golfer, and he said, "Oh, you're a grinder." And I remember when I first started, and I said, What's a grinder?" And he's like, "You just work at it, work at it, work at it, work at it." So the title of my book is From Grind to Gold, and it is about helping agency owners see the value currently that they have in their business. And there's really three pillars to how I help them: uh, generate more recurring revenue, generate more profit, and then build wealth from that profit and exit that business. And there are multiple creative ways to exit. And so that's what I do is I work with business owners to on those three pillars. And the book is all about the program that I have that with agency owners, um, what some of those exit options are, how to think about it, um, and then uh, if they wanted to work with someone like with me, or if they wanted to do it themselves, they could absolutely do that. But From Grind to Gold is all about helping those entrepreneurs that run digital agencies really um, find the value in their business, because most of them have found the value in the job, but they really haven't solved the problem of, well, how do we make this thing generate wealth? And if you look at what wealth is versus income, we could do, the whole tour on Robert Kiyosaki's cash quadrant and that kind of thing. But really, wealth is, if you think about it, owners have the ability to take profit out of their business. That's the right of being an owner of a business. Wealth is when you can live off of that profit. In other words, that profit is more money than your monthly expenses.
That's
That's
perfect.
true wealth.
Yeah, that's wealth.
And the biggest part of that for an owner of a business is you're no longer operating that business. You have somebody operating it for you, and you're taking the wealth that you've earned. Then we're talking, that's true wealth and true freedom.
I believe that would be freedom. I would like to achieve that now, but I'll wait a couple more years. Don't want to be too wealthy too quick. Come on.
Yeah.
Well, Tony, it's been a great conversation. I really appreciate how open and thoughtful you've been for the last for this. This was great. I really appreciate it.
Yeah.
Once we finish this series right now, I'll be pulling together a highlight reel of key takeaways from all our guests, and I'll be sure to send one your way. And well, I was looking at your book. Now I may do more than just look at it. How's that?
There you go. Yeah.
Well, well, have yourself a wonderful day, and it was great talking to you, Tony.
Appreciate it, Roy. Thanks for inviting me.
Bye
Glad
for
to
now.